Morning, everyone, or afternoon, wherever you may be coming from at this point in time, and the location where you are at this current moment. I've come to find that just depending on where you may be located, may be a different time. This is Soul Formation. My name is Dr. Gabe Roberts, and I'm very thankful to have you all here today with me as we're going to discuss something today that has to do with interrupting adverse patterns in our life, changing the negative patterns that get passed down from time to time and throughout our families. And these things are rampant. They're everywhere. Every single family has one, no matter what they may appear on the surface. We are all plagued by these, and it's important to realize that we are not broken. Whatever may be going on with our current situation, within our families, within our parents, within our children, within our cousins, the bitterness, the grudges, the defeating patterns that we may have and we may share, we all have them in some way, shape, or form. And it's important to realize that we are not broken. It's important to realize that we are not our memories. We are not our memories at all. Our most powerful memories that we have that influence us the rest of our lives, believe it or not, come from the moment after conception, not even birth, after conception, and till around the age of 5. And we are not our thoughts, especially those defeating ones, the ones that give us the most adverse patterns that show up in our life. These did not originate with us. They did not start with us. They were passed down at a time when, like I said, when we were in the womb, when we were the first few years of life, when we were the most vulnerable and we didn't have a say-so in the matter. And at those times in our life, when we are first conceived, we accept whatever's given to us in that circumstance. We accept it without any questions asked, even if it's distance, even if it's criticism. And the important thing to realize is that we don't recall learning of any of these adverse negative patterns. We don't recall any of this. They're like wallpaper that blends in the background. And for all practical purposes, we think it's just normal. We think it's just us. We think it's the way we are. And sometimes we even use excuses. It's the way I'm wired. It's just the way I am. It's just the way things are. That's like wallpaper blending in with the background that you never question, that you never know what it's like not to have those things. And that's what makes these negative patterns so tedious to change. These negative patterns we have in our lives have been passed down for families of generations and generations. When you were conceived is when you learned the most in your life. It's when you really learned that you learned the foundation of your life itself. And that moment, you didn't have a choice in what you were dealt. You didn't have a say-so in what baggage that you would carry, how, and which way you were going to be injured. That's the thing that's the thing that's very important, to realize that none of us are broken. And we might feel that way. I see people today that are chronically ill, and their solution is to take more and more medications. God knows they feel broken, but they are not broken. They're injured from childhood experiences, and they don't know it because it blends in like wallpaper. And the idea of them being injured from their childhood may or may not be familiar with them. Chances are they don't even know it. But the point is, we are all injured in some way. Don't fool yourself, okay? You're not broken. We are all injured in some way. Just like you inherit the DNA from your mom and your dad, which determines things like your skin color, your eye color, how tall you are, what your hair is like. You also inherit things that are not from the DNA, but they're learned in early life. And these show up as coping mechanisms. These show up as addictions. These show up as the manifestation of physical illnesses and mental illnesses. And oftentimes people blame these on genetics. I'm not saying genetics don't play a role, but I hear oftentimes people come to me and they have a genetic problem. and we regress the cause. We go back to find the very seed planting where they first learned it, somewhere between 0 to 5, and there's some issue happening, a trauma, an overwhelming experience. And once we change that, the person heals. So if I could say that it was genetics, we wouldn't see healing at the rates we do. And many times it's just blamed on genetics, but they're really passed down learned behaviors, and from those around us at our earliest stage in life, when, like I said, when we're in the womb till around age 5. By the age of 7 years old, we've learned half of what we'll know our entire life. So depression, things like anger, things like low self-esteem, guilt, resentment, criticism, whether it's criticism of your own self, criticism of others, whether you tend to be critical of other people, whether it's, patterns of poverty, patterns of sabotaging behavior. All these are examples of mental thought patterns that we learned at one point in time. And believe it or not, these are responsible for causing a significant amount of illnesses and chronic diseases in the body. And I would argue far more than our typical go around of saying it's toxins, it's heavy metals, it's microbes, it's parasites, it's this or that. Yes, they can be problematic, but all too often, if we're trying to detox ourselves and eat healthier foods and things like that, and looking at that as a source, oftentimes we're it's equivalent to pulling a leaf off of a weed and mistaking it for the root. It's not the root. So believe it or not, these thought cause patterns of anger, low self-esteem, guilt, resentment, criticism, depression, things like that are responsible for a huge number of chronic illnesses. For example, criticism that's held in the body long enough, held in the subconscious mind, below the surface of awareness, criticism held long enough will lead to chronic pain in some way, shape, or form, including things like arthritis. Anger will, in the mental body, leads to things that are hot, boils, burns, various types of infections in the body, chronic infections. If you're one of these people that are just susceptible to chronic infections, chances are there's some kind of deep held anger within the body. Resentment held long enough, resentment and bitterness towards people and others held long enough in the mental body will lead to festering energy that begins to eat away at the person, leading to tumors and cancer and things like that. Guilt will always be represented by the subconscious mind as the need to seek for punishment, and will always lead to some form of physical pain that sticks around for a long time. So people, you can get massages, you can get hot stone treatment from massages, you can get chiropractic care. I'm a chiropractor myself, and that's how I learned to know this, is realizing that all the acupuncture and the chiropractic and the energetic work I was doing on my clients a decade ago was surface level work. And if you don't release those mental thought patterns, which is what I started spending another decade studying, from the subconscious mind, you'll never achieve wholeness. You'll never achieve health, and you'll never have full alignment with divine. And that's where the real healing comes from. And willpower and discipline alone won't do these. Just like supplements and outer body work, getting a practitioner to work on you from the outside, whether it's a chiropractor or an energetic worker, discipline, things like that, they are only battling outer effects. Okay. Again, it's like pulling a leaf off of a weed and ignoring the root. So if we look at these terminology and how it's laid out in biblical scripture, it's called uninequity, and it means a hereditary weakness passed down from generation to generation. Like I said, these things that we're carrying, these mental thought patterns, didn't start with us. They did not originate with us, and they're not us, even though we think that they are. They show up in all sorts of different families that can't get along, parents constantly arguing, siblings that are hurt, cousins that have bitterness towards each other, grandparents at odds with other parts of the family, conflict, children on bad terms with their parents. This reigns very high in my family. Maybe some of you can relate to these patterns. And this is what we would call a spirit of strife. a spiritual curse, and it will continue on in generation after generation. In these patterns, and they will always repeat themselves regardless of what a person is desiring, regardless of what a person is doing on the outside. My mom did everything she could to keep my father out of my life. My mother, at a very, very early age, before I was even out of diapers, did everything she could to keep my father out of my life. So it didn't start with her. And I used to ask my grandmother when I was real little, and I used to ask my grandmother about my real grandpa, not the guy that she was married to, that was married to for years and kind of took the place of grandpa. We called him grandpa, but I knew that I had been told in many things that my real grandpa was someone else. And when I asked questions about my real grandpa, it set my grandmother off. And I don't mean to just set her off mildly. I mean, she went into a fury fit, calling him all kinds of names, all kinds of just horrible things, right? Even as a young kid. And here it is, 2 generations later, my first wife. I marry a woman who, when we got really at odds with each other and we divorced, did the same thing. I was drawn to repeat that spirit of strife. It had its claws in me. I was drawn to seek out a woman who had the characteristics, the traits, the attributes of my mom and my grandma, even when I was completely appalled at the behaviors that both my grandmother had towards my grandpa and my mom had towards my father. And I'm here today having my former spouse tell my children the same kind of lies about me. And maybe some of you can relate. Maybe this resonates, maybe not. But the point is, we have these patterns that repeat ourselves and are very unconscious level that continue on. I didn't understand why my grandmother called them awful names. They're the most disgusting insults. And then I unintentionally, unconsciously, unwillingly repeated the process, having the same atrocities happen in my own life today. Now, it's because I didn't choose this willingly. And that's the point of all this. They chose me, and they chose me before I was ever conceived. And they will continue to be passed down from family to generation until someone rises up. And that's what I did in my case. Somebody rises up and decides in their heart, I'm going to break this negative cycle. I'm going to be the one. It's important to understand it didn't start with you, but I can promise you all the addictions and all these mental patterns that I discuss, anger, resentment, guilt, low self-esteem, poverty mindsets, whatever they are, they didn't begin with you. You learned them, but the good news is they can end with you. You can be the one who stops it. You can be the one who makes it easier and far different for your children and your grandchildren. And it's wise to know the weaknesses that show up in generational lines, because if you and maybe others that you know of are in complete denial of these things. I know so many people. I got text yesterday from family members talking about these same mental patterns, and I just am quiet. I'm like, hey, I've got a best-selling book out, the work I do, but if you are in denial of these things, blatant denial, then there's no problem to fix, right? Nothing to change, nothing to do, so you can expect the same problems to be coming and reoccurring over and over. I'm going to ask you all today, I'm going to suggest to you all, don't make that mistake. Don't make that mistake. I saw patterns of abuse, neglect, failure on multiple levels, and maybe some of you can see those same patterns in your life in some way, shape, or form. And when you do, when you see these patterns and you become aware of these are like spirits that are coming after you, these spirits of strife that are coming after you, then you can begin to guard yourself more. You can begin the act of putting your walls up. You can begin to have awareness of these things starting to change, and you can start to tell yourself on a regular basis, no thanks, I'm not passing this on. No thanks, I'm not going to live inferior. No thank you, I'm not going to live insecure. I'm not going to live with anger. I'm not going to live with bitterness. The line stops here. The line stops here. You can be the one to decide now to tell yourself that. You can say to yourself every single day, infinite intelligence of the universe that lives within me, guides me, directs me, gives me the guidance and the wisdom to halt this inequity from continuing on. You can tell yourself that every day. It may have been in your family line, but you are here today listening to all this, and it's so you can begin the steps on how to end it. I love the phrase. I love this phrase. It ran into my family until it ran into me. Maybe it's been there a long time. You have the choice right now to decide, and it comes with making a decision. Do you know most people can't make a simple decision? The minute they say, yeah, I want to do this, and then immediately they have excuses for why it won't work. That's not making a decision. That is not making a decision. I have people that say, oh man, I want to go through your program. I want to learn what you know, Gabe, but XYZ. And all I have to say is, you didn't make a decision. When you make a decision, you don't have to know how or why or when or any of that. You make a decision and that's it. And that is incredibly powerful because we have infinite intelligence flowing through us. We have the power of God within your subconscious mind. And most of us, I will promise you this, most of us can't make a decision because we get in our own way. We get in our own way, not willingly, not intentionally, but we don't activate the power within us because we don't make the decision. When you make the decision, and you say, I'm doing it, that's that. It's final, that's that. You don't have to sit there and try to figure out how and when's it going to come and how are the funds going to come and when are the right people going to show up. You don't have to figure all that out. It will come. The things will arrange themselves for you because you're a non-physical being. You're a non-physical, spiritual, pure consciousness compressed into a flesh body. But when we get in the way of ourselves, when we make decisions and then we go, I don't know, I don't know, you're the one blocking it. You're the one stopping it. You're the one interfering with that flow. Now, I learned this long ago, and oh yeah, my mind was having a tug of war. I'd make a decision and said, kind of go back, make another decision, kind of go back. And once I really started to make decisions, drawing it in the line, no matter what, that's all there was to it. I'm stopping it here. Things really started to change over time. And that's the power we all have. It ran into my family until it ran into me. You have the choice right now to make the decision. You don't have to know where the funds are coming from or where the right person is going to be or that perfect relationship you're looking for, or when things are going to turn out the way it's supposed to be. You're not supposed to sit there and try to figure all that out. I'll tell you what, when you're trying to figure all that out, guess who you're putting on the throne? Do you think you're putting divine on the throne? Are you putting God on the throne when you're doing that? I can promise you you're not. I can promise you you're not. Now, we are all guilty of this, including me. I've done this in the past. I don't do it anymore. I do not. My brain defaults whenever I have a problem, a situation come up, and I don't have an answer right there. I say, I'm not meant to figure this out, but the problem's going to dissolve away. The solution will come to me. Infinite intelligence is my senior partner, and it guides me and reveals to me, and suddenly 15 answers show up for that one problem, and all of them are very simple. All of them are very simple. It's incredibly easy, but people can't do it. They get in their own way. They get in their own way all the time. So you have the choice right now. And here's the thing, maybe you're addicted to those old ways. Maybe you're addicted to the stress hormones. Maybe you are so familiar and addicted to that wallpaper that's been there your whole life. That the fact that that wallpaper starts crumbling away, it scares you. It scares you and you go, no, 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 I can't live without this misery. I can't live without this poverty. I can't live without this, this bitterness. It's all I know. Well, that's a choice. You can choose right now to let that stuff go and begin releasing it for a better life. There are negative things in our family, and we have to say to ourselves, you cannot live in my life anymore. You cannot live in my life anymore. We all have the choice to be exceptional. We all have the choice to break down the barriers. We all have the choice to defy the odds. You must drop the anger. You must drop the pain. You must drop the unforgiveness. Okay. You can stop them, because as long as you allow them to live in your life, and I don't care how good they feel, I don't care how familiar that wallpaper is, I don't care if that's the only thing you've ever known, you cannot allow them to live in your life, because they'll destroy your dreams. They will absolutely destroy your purpose. Your soul didn't come here to live small. And your soul certainly didn't come to earth for your mind to get in the way because you've been injured. You came here for a purpose. Allowing that stuff to bitter in your life and live in your life, that resentment, that guilt, that low self-esteem, it will absolutely destroy your purpose. Have the courage to step up. Have the courage to make a decision. And you can just simply say, this is where the depression stops. This is where the misery stops. This is where the living small stops. This is where the poverty comes to an end. Don't live with the dysfunction anymore. Break free of it. You must say, well, you might say, oh, Gabe, that's real easy for you to say. You don't know my situation. You don't know what I've been through, Gabe. You don't know my neighbor or my spouse or my brother, my father. You don't know my former life. You don't know what's going on with me. Have you read my first chapter of my book? I'm not saying that you haven't had a heavier load than I have. Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. But the very first chapter of my book tells you, yeah, I had a significant amount of dysfunction, so much it's still showing up in my life. But is it bothering me? Am I on the throne? Or am I letting divine handle it? And whenever I let God take care of it and I step out of the way and I train my mind to step out of the way, I train my mind to not look at this problem, but let the solution come to me through greater mindset, I can tell you, I've never been happier. I've never been healthier. I'm 40, I keep forgetting my age, 45, I think.
44.
44. Okay. 44 years old. And I wake up pain-free. I wake up pain-free every morning, moving, get out of my bed. I go jump on the trampoline a little bit, maybe jump in the swimming pool for a little bit, pain-free. And I know guys that are in their 30s right now that I talk to in their 30s, and they're fit and they have more aches and pains, stiffness, nagging headaches than I do. And it's because they're in their way. So read the first chapter of my book. If you don't know where to start removing these injuries at the very basic, get your hands on my book. Okay. We'll put the link in the comments for you. But I had a childhood full of crushed dreams, a childhood of poverty, a childhood of, all those things. And I made a decision. And when I made a decision, the way came to me to start upgrading my life, changing my life. And guess what? My kids are the ones benefiting from that right now. You may have children. They're counting on you to make that decision. You may have grandchildren. It's their destiny determined on if you make this decision. Their destiny hangs in the balance. Are you going to let this spirit of strife continue to get passed down for generation to generation to generation? You have the choice. Okay. It takes guts. It takes ruthless determination, but you have the choice and you have the power within you as a spiritual being, but you can't get in your own way. You got to think, are your kids, are your grandkids going to be exposed to the same patterns of adversity that you had? Or will you be the one to step up and break those patterns of adversity, change the course of your family's life? Change the course of your family's life. When you realize that power, the power within you is greater than any power that's attempting to stop you. Again, when you realize that the power within you is greater than any power that is attempting to stop you, you can make a decision that'll completely change the trajectory of your life. In order to adjust yourself to use this power, it's absolutely essential. It's a necessity where you become a channel through which the life principle can flow through. A channel from which the life principle flows through freely, harmoniously, joyously, and lovingly. Because the solution to all your problems, all these mental patterns I talked about, is to get acquainted and use the divine presence and power in your life. Now we have this when we're conceived on earth, we have this. And guess what happens? When we first get exposed to trauma at a very early age, we're cut off from it, but it's still there. And the scripture tells us, acquaint now thyself with him and be at peace, and good shall come unto thee. Make the decision this is going to be you. Acquaint now thyself with him and be at peace, and good shall come unto thee. And I tell you what, I've never read truer words. And I'm a scientist. I'm a scientist at heart. I like to see proof. I like to ask questions. I like to investigate things. And what I'm seeing in the latest development in quantum physics, which is the most valid of all science today, aligns with the passages that were biblical. So the Bible is a great key to living the great life. And I'm going to tell you, if you're reading the Bible and you're in a church that makes you feel less than powerful, I'm going to suggest you find a different church, because they're not letting you live your full power. They're not telling you the truth. They're telling you their interpretations. And what I suggest is each person right now, if you're the one that's making that decision, I suggest you establish a definite method of working with this divine presence that's already in you and practicing it regularly and practicing it systematically every single day. Don't just do it on Sundays. Do it every day. Do it every morning. And one of the best ways that we can start this, one of the best ways that we can begin to use this power within us and become a channel for the divine, is something called a blessing. A blessing. And we use this to transform something that hurt us in the past, into something that can help us. And we are not forgiving, okay? We're not forgiving the people that hurt us. And we're not acknowledging that we had enjoyed it, and not acknowledging it was something good, and acknowledging we want it to happen again. We're acknowledging that there was a hurt, and today I'm better than that hurt. Today I'm more than what happened to me. There's a big difference. Doesn't let the people that did it off the hook, but it lets you know, it acknowledges that you are above and beyond that. So blessing is a lubricant that frees up the hurtful emotions, which are trapped in our body oftentimes, and it opens us up to a greater healing rather than keeping them stuck in the body where they hurt us. Feelings and emotion don't hurt us at all. Feelings and emotion that are trapped within the body maim, create illness, and they kill a lot of people. They kill a lot of people. And I see this happening with people that have the most organic food, the best supplements on, they're taking suitcases of supplements. I can't tell you the number of people that have come to me with malignancy. And when they were first diagnosed, they went to a nutritionist, they went to a naturopathic doctor, they went to a muscle tester, they started working on things, they were working on emotions, they were working on getting everything toxin free, getting rid of the infections in their body, and sleeping in a Faraday cage, you name it. Okay, getting rid of EMF, everything. And they go back to the doctor that previously diagnosed with cancer, and guess what? The cancer spread even worse. I've seen that happen many times in my career. Why? Because the root cause wasn't changed. Their mental states were still there. They still had the resentment, the anger, the bitterness, whatever it might be. Okay? So a simple tool that we can start to use to process of lubricating these hurtful, trapped emotions is a blessing. We aren't saying it's okay for those who hurt us. It doesn't approve of the hurtful event that happened. But what it does is it frees us from our past painful experiences. That's what it does. We acknowledge them, not approving of them, but blessing them so they move through our bodies. It allows us to use our power, use that divine power to release life's hurt and unresolved feelings. Sounds too simple? Well, what happens is whenever it's very powerful, and it's something that actually Jesus offered as a way in the scripture for us to start to release these and start to heal. And blessings allow us the chance to see beyond the differences that we judge. Okay. And when we see beyond the differences that we judge, that's when we dissolve these polarities of the things that have separated us. So it allows us to see beyond the differences. We move right beyond the right. Whenever we do the blessings correctly, we move beyond the right or the wrong or the good or the bad or the things that hurt us. And it basically allows us to show us and find our greatest power to become more than the things that hurt us. More than the things that hurt us. Now, some level of our mind might know the hurt, but it's the feelings in our heart that speak to the field and to the mind of God. And that's what heals. Not our thinking mind, what we feel in our heart. What we feel in our heart. If you could just learn to follow your feelings, follow what your heart tells you, and get your mind out of the way, you'd notice you're on the track. You're on the track for better healing. You're on the track for a different life. But most people let their head get in the way of what their heart is trying to point out to them. As a teacher and a healer, Jesus showed us how to transcend our hurts, and through the wisdom of our hearts, start to begin that process of healing and becoming a channel for the divine. In the scripture, Jesus' words, bless them that curse you and pray for them which despitefully use you. Bless them that curse you and pray for them which despitefully use you. And these are how you use the blessings and use them correctly. And I suggest, like I said, sit down for a few minutes every day and practice this every day. So does everyone have a pencil and paper? This is how you do it. I want you to write this down. The first thing you do is you bless those who suffer, including yourself. And you name them all. For one particular, whatever it is, one of those mental patterns that I discussed, you write down, bless those who suffer. And you do that by saying this, I bless blank, and you name them all. You name them all. You just say, I bless this person. I bless my mom. I bless my former spouse. That's what I do. I've done that so many times that my former spouse can do whatever she wants to do. She can say whatever she wants to say about me, and it has no impact on my life, because the true power is within us, not outside of us. Okay. I bless blank. Name them all, including yourself. But you bless all of those who are suffering. That's the first line. The second line is you bless whatever is causing the suffering. You bless whatever is causing the suffering. The mental patterns that I discussed. Okay. The anger, the resentment, the guilt, the bitterness. I bless this. Okay. And you say it. I bless blank. Okay. Who or whatever is inflicting the suffering, and you want to be as specific as possible on this one. And this one's the more difficult. And what you find is if you say this a few times, you'll notice your mind starts to unravel like a big wad up ball of yarn. Your mind will just start kicking things out and bless them all. Bless everything that comes up. As you start blessing hurt, your mind will start kicking these things out, because it doesn't want you to carry. It doesn't want you to suppress. It doesn't want you to bury these things within you. So the first line, I bless whoever's suffering. You name them all. The second line, I bless whatever's causing the suffering. Again, this is the more difficult one people have trouble with, and this is the one where you want to be very specific. That's the second line. Here's the third line. You bless all the ones who witness the suffering, all the ones that are involved, all the witnesses involved. So if you're having a situation right now where you're working and there's a lot of attorneys involved, or you're working with a big family and there's many people that have seen and they were kind of bystanders going with this family conflict you have. The third one is you bless all witnesses. You name all the people that have heard or felt or seen what is going on. Okay. And again, you just say, I bless all witnesses. Okay. So the first line, I bless blank. And that means who's suffering, including yourself. You bless whoever it is. And again, it's not for, if you find yourself having difficulty doing this, it's because there might be part of you saying, well, I'm not going to bless them. Gabe, they hurt me. I don't want to bless them. Fine. Carry the hurt, because that's what's going to happen. This is for people that are having the mindset, they've made the decision that they're better than the hurt. They're more than the hurt that's caused. They're not letting the person off the hook, but they want an answer. They want something. They want to heal. They want to get past this and move on, and they don't want to carry it anymore. That's who this blessing is for. If you find yourself wanting to carry it, if you find yourself wanting some kind of revenge or something else, or they need to pay for what they did, this blessing's not for you. Okay, this blessing's not for you. In that case, I will say this, you would need a much deeper intervention, okay? But that blessing is not for you if you have not gained the mental, spiritual maturity yet for that. The first line, I bless those who suffer, okay? I bless those who suffer. Second line, I bless whatever's causing the suffering. Be specific and name them all. Okay, who or whatever inflicted the suffering. And the third one is I bless all witnesses. I bless all witnesses. Okay, all the people are involved. And if it seems like it's not working, if it seems like this is not working as you're naming it, keep repeating it out loud. Say it out loud all the time. Take 5 minutes a day to start doing this, and you'll start to release those emotions. And you'll notice, because what happens is you'll start crying. You'll start having tears come up. And that's a good sign, because you're moving it, you're lubricating whatever that stuck stuff was, and you're letting that stuff start to flow through your body so you can become a channel for the divine. Okay. It may take a few times. Put your hand over your heart, close your eyes, and slow your breathing down, and really, really say it. Really say it deep inside. And I don't care how justified you feel in holding a resentment. It's a really dumb game. It's only going to hurt you. And it's going to be passed down into your children and your grandchildren for a long time. Tears are good. You'll want to feel those tears. You'll want to feel those tears. And blessings are a wonderful way of spiritual practice to move forward by saying this: today, I am more than the hurt of my past. I am more than that spirit of strife. I am more than the family things that have been passed down for generation of generation. Okay. Now, does anyone have any brief, relevant questions on that? Let's see. I'm going to look through the chat list. Okay. Relate to that. So powerful. So are there healing generations behind us and ahead of us? We can do this. Here's the thing. As you start to do this, with yourself, you'll notice that maybe people pop into your mind. Don't go looking for things. Allow them to come into you. That's why I say, when you start doing the second part, I bless who or what caused the specific suffering, your mind may have this wadded up yarn ball. And as you're doing this, that thing starts unraveling, and you'll have all these things popping up. You'll suddenly notice it. Bless every bit of it. Just saying out loud, I bless this, I bless this, I bless this, I bless this, I bless this. Say it out loud, and you'll have tears coming up, and you're lubricating that stuck stuff inside you to start leaving your body. Okay. So healing generations behind and ahead, if it's relevant, they'll pop up in your mind. If you see an image of your grandmother or somebody else pop up, bless them all. Just repeat the process. Okay. Is there healing generations that we can do to ourselves? This is a good intervention for that. some of the deeper, more complex interventions may be necessary for that to happen. Okay. What happened to the cancer patient after working with you? I will tell you this. What happens is, and I have the evidence of this. Many of them start out in the hospital, start out terminal, start out bad. And in this particular case, where I'm talking about, after working with her for about 3 months, she was strong, she was healthy, she was at home, she was holding boundaries, and she was letting us know she's going on her first vacation with her family. She felt strong and healthy and happy enough to go enjoy herself on vacation for the first time in years and years. So um, whenever the person is actually able to hold their boundaries, when they're actually able to release feeling responsible for how other people feel, when they can say no when they should say no. And I asked them, how's that feel when you say no? How's that feel to say no to your spouse? How's that feel to hold boundaries that you've never held all this time? They say this: oh, so relief, such relief. That relief right there is the cure to their illness. So those things go away to never come back. Okay. Bless all those that suffer, including yourself. That's right. I bless blank. Bless again. Name them all. First line, whatever's causing the suffering, the second line, and all who witness. Okay. Are we blessing people, events, environmental causes for illness, or is it negative emotions? Anything that comes up as a mental pattern that's bothering you while your mind is and it certainly can be something like an environmental cause. It can be something like September 11th. It could be a tornado that comes through, and when that tornado comes through, let's say it destroyed someone's home. Okay, when you're doing that, you can bless everything that comes up. You can bless what happened, bless the event, bless all that's suffering, the loss, maybe a loss of people, maybe a loss of property. Just bless that over and over and over. Does it make it right? No, but it frees you from carrying that stuff. Because I promise you, if you carry it, you're going to pass it on to somebody else. And this is incredibly easy, very easy to do. And it's scripture that Jesus left us to do. So it works, but you have to be mentally mature enough to say, you know what, I'm above the hurt that happened to me. You want to stick with that hurt? You want to say, well, that person really hurt me, Gabe. They really need to suffer. This blessing's not for you. You haven't reached the maturity level enough, the spiritual maturity, the mental maturity enough to let that stuff go. And therefore, this blessing is not adequate. Okay. Is there a feeling to generate when we say the blessing? Here's the thing. You want to say it over and over and over until what'll happen is you'll have some tears start to come up. Okay. You'll have some tears starting to come up in this. And when those tears start to come up, okay, that's when you're lubricating something that's been there a long time, and you just want to repeat the process until you feel it release. And here's how you'll know when it's released: because you can look back at it and it's no longer bothering you. The hurt isn't there. Okay. The pain isn't there. That's when if you can bring back that event or that person or think about it and it's still bothering you in some way, you still need to repeat this blessing. That's why I said each and every one of you need to take 5 minutes a day and practice this. Now, do you need more than 5 minutes? Sure. When I first started doing this stuff long ago, when I made that decision that it ends with me, traumas ran in my family, but until it ran to me, I worked on this stuff diligently every single hour. I mean, I got to the point where Tiffany and my daughter Aria will remember this. I had a phone next to me and I literally set it for 5 minutes. I wanted that stuff out of my mind so bad. I wanted that stuff out of my body, out of my family, not affecting my kids, not affecting my future grandkids, that I set a timer on my phone, and every 5 minutes when it went up, I'd go say a prayer and bless people and bless this and bless that. Is that not right, honey? Every 5 minutes when my timer went off, we'd be sitting there on the couch. Ding, ding, ding. I'd get up and go do it.
Yep.
Ding, ding, ding. I'd get up and go do it again. ding, 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 I'd get up and go do it again until, guess what? I became a channel for divine. And now when things happen to me, I just say, hey, the greater mind can handle this. I don't have to figure it out, because that's where the true power comes. We didn't come to earth to suffer. There is suffering, no doubt. We came to learn our true power. And you don't have to learn it. It's okay. Many people don't. A majority of people don't. But we came here to learn our true power. And we came here to connect with divine. And we came here to realize that the things that are causing us to drag our feet, not live the life that we want, to stay in poverty, stay in low self-esteem, to stay in hurtful relationships, are things that we learned and we're still letting our mind get in the way of it. Okay? So use this as a wonderful tool. Use it all the time. And thank you for being here with me today. I hope this was helpful. We will see you all next week.
Thank you.
You are so welcome. Bye-bye, everyone.